Hello! I am back again with my third episode in my Fighting Fantasy epic journey of trying to beat this game. This is Return to Firetop Mountain, the 50th book in the Fighting Fantasy Choose Your Own Adventure game book series. This is the third time I'm going to try to play this, and the third time that I'm going to die horribly. But hopefully this time too, I will learn some new things that I'm not going to do on my fourth try. This is how it works. So, third time to charm? Let's find out. Right, so I have gathered my supplies again. I've got my maps from my previous runs. Got the book, got some paper, pens, got my dice, and I will write my skill, stamina, luck, my starting values, skill, 1 die plus 6. Ooh. 12. Stamina. Skill is more important than stamina, really. Let's see. 8 plus 12. That is 20. And luck. Very important. I've found not so good at 8. So I'm not putting gold items. There we are. So that's my character sheet. Right, so just to recap, for those of you who haven't seen the other episodes, or if you've seen it a long time ago, this is a choose your own adventure game book called Return to Firetop Mountain. You start at the beginning, and very quickly you get to a point. Start here is numbered paragraphs, paragraph 1. You start reading and you are given a choice. And in this one, it says follow this guy here. It's called Moose, the innkeeper. Go to 341 if you want to go alone. Go to 161. Simple. And so you go to the next one, and there are new choices. There are monsters to be fought. Oh, that looks like a nasty one. And other things that can happen. Traps, curses. Lots of ways to die. Maybe at some point I'll know how many different ways there are to die in this one, but for now, I'm hoping I won't find any. But I'm sure I will find some new ones. So just to recap the story, 10 years ago, the Warlock of Firetop Mountain was defeated in this book, which is the first in the series. But after 10 years, it turns out he wasn't dead after all. He cast a raise dead spell on himself, and he was able to come back to life, or he certainly is in the process of coming back to life. He may need to rebuild a body, so people have gone missing from the nearby village of Anvil, and people think it's the warlock gathering body parts to rebuild himself. With the help of his evil minions, which consist of orcs, hobgoblins, all the usual suspects. It's very Tolkien-esque, I suppose. You are an adventurer, a sword for hire, somebody who just seeks fame and fortune, and you arrive at Anvil, and you are being told about the wizard, Azegor, returning to life, and you take the job of trying to defeat him. As you sort of get hired on the spot by partly by the innkeeper, a man whose name is Moose. And at the beginning, Moose, He's spotted a few of Zago's spies who seem to have who know about the fact that you have been hired to go and get Zago, and this is and also it has been suggested to you that you should go to see Yaztromo to get some help in your quest. Now, in previous run-throughs, I did go and I met Yaztromo, and I managed to get quite a few items that might help me on the way. But I'm thinking in this run-through I should just go head straight for the mountain. I will presume I will die again, but as a sort of a reconnaissance suicide mission to find out what I might actually need, because there are so many different things you might pick up or not pick up. And also you're given a choice of 5 items out of 12 when you do meet Yaztromo and you get to that the place he is. It should be possible to do without as well. Might be harder, but as long as I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just fumbling around in the darkness here. So I think I'm going to skip going for Yaztromo this time and just go straight for the mountain, which would be a different adventure. So, let's just start here at number 1. So, leaving Anvil and its villagers behind, you set off east deep in thought. Firetop Mountain is only a short distance from Anvil, but to go all the way to Yaztromo's tower first would mean losing many days' valuable time. How could Yaztromo help? Ever since he single-handedly defeated 8 ghoulish dark elves on the edge of Darkwood Forest, the place where he built his famous tower, his reputation has grown. Wise, good, powerful, philanthropic, and many other words were used to describe the great Yaztromo. So actually, I know him now, I've met him, and he's just a grumpy old bastard as well. Suddenly there is a shout from behind you. Spin around to see Moose running towards you. You notice that his sword is drawn, and there is a look of alarm on his face. Zago will know of your plan unless we can catch the 2 trackers I saw running from Anvil a few minutes ago. They must have overheard us and are running back to inform Zago. Quick, follow me. We must catch them, Moose says hurriedly, still panting. He runs off into the undergrowth, shouting at you to follow him. If you wish to do so, turn to 341. If you would rather continue to walk along the path alone, turn to 161. Now, I know if I do follow him now, I will get a few daggers and a shield. And it is relatively safe because my skill is quite high. So I'm going to follow him and go to 341. This is just a little circle in the beginning before you go back to going on your own. You run after Moose, keeping your head down to avoid the many outstretched branches. If you catch sight of something sparkling in the bushes, if you want to stop briefly to find out what it is, turn to 82. If you do not wish to stop, turn to 267. I'm going to 82. That's to pick up a shield. You find a round, polished shield, half buried in the dirt. Take it if you wish and turn to 267. So I'm now got item a shield. 267. You have to run hard to keep up with Moose. He zigzags through the undergrowth, glancing down at the ground occasionally for prints. All at once he stops and puts his arm up for you to stop running too. You hear a rustle of branches to your left, followed by a piercing howl. Will you charge into the bushes towards the noise, or stand your ground? In this case, if I stand my ground, I will need my shield to stop a thrown dagger, which is fine. But there's no point. I don't gain anything from it, apart from maybe a dagger. It's a bit ambiguous. But I will just run in and go to 72. You leap into the bushes, your sword cutting through the air. To your right is Moose, and in front of your 2 servants are the 2 servants of Zago. They crouch, daggers drawn, and growl, foamy spittle dripping from their dog-like jaws. Half dark elf and half goblin, trackers are perfect hunters and messengers, always armed with a crossbelt of throwing daggers across their chest. They will not usually fight openly unless cornered. Suddenly they throw their daggers at you and Moose and draw their short swords. But you are ready and duck below the flying dagger. Wasting not a second more, you charge at the nearest tracker. So this is our first battle. And he's got a skill of 7, which is 5 less than mine. And a stamina of 6. So stamina 6. And which means he rolls first. He needs to roll 5, so he needs to get a 40. He needs to roll a 7 just to be able to break even. So that is pretty good. Okay, so he rolls 8. Okay, so that's I need to roll 3 or better. Yep. So he is down to 4. And so he's got 12 plus 7, so that's 19 attack roll. And I need to roll a 7 or better. Okay, so he injured me. So my stamina is now 18. Oh my god. 11, and I roll 4. Oh well, that should actually teach me being so snooty about saying I've got such a high skill. That should be easy. Right. He rolls an 8 and 10. So that is, he's down to 2 hit points. He rolls a 4. He can't hit me with 4. He is dead. I win and I go to 306. You pull your sword free from the tracker's chest and looking round see that Moose has also been victorious, despite a deep gash in his left arm. A search of the tracker's bodies reveals 6 gold pieces, each stamped with the letter Z. You agree to keep 3 each, and you also take 2 steel daggers. So I've got 2 steel daggers, and 3, I'll put Z because it's a special kind of gold piece, although that is not going to be relevant in this playthrough because I'm not going to make the same mistake I made in my first playthrough to actually reveal to someone that it says Z on them, because they might think you're a minion of Zegor if you got Z on your gold coins. There we are. Not content with emptying pockets, Moose pulls the boots off the trackers and gives them a shake. A folded piece of brown-stained paper falls to the ground. I'm not touching that smelly thing, laughs Moose. If you want it, you can have it. If you do as Moose suggests, turn to 218. If you would rather leave the paper on the ground, turn to 106. And of course, now I know, if I pick this paper up and I look at it, I'm going to get cursed. I'm not doing that. I'm going to leave it on the ground. It's amazing what you can learn when you die and you get reincarnated as the same adventurer doing the same thing over again. It's like Groundhog Day. You walk back to the path with Moose deep in discussion about Zegor. Mission accomplished anyway, Moose says cheerfully. At least Zegor doesn't know you're coming. Eventually you shake hands and say goodbye. Oh, safe to shake hands with him. Moose sets off on the return journey to Anvil while you follow the path in the opposite direction. Turn to 161. So 161. By midday, the sun overhead is shining brightly and it is uncomfortably hot as you walk along the dusty path. You hear the sound of someone whistling. Then in the distance you see an old man leading a donkey. 2 large wicker baskets piled high with mushrooms are strapped to the donkey's back. As you approach the man, he comes to a halt, and standing boldly in front of his donkey, with his arms folded across his chest, he says, "I'm Dung Heap Dan, the Mushroom Man. I'd rather be a poet than a man who has to hoe it." Sounds a bit like a rap, doesn't it, from the 80s? He smiles and bows as if waiting for applause. If you want to talk with Dan, turn to 286. If you'd rather ignore him and keep on walking, turn to 237. I'm going to talk to him and get a mushroom. You open your mouth to speak, but Dan immediately interrupts with another rhyme. Take a mushroom, I won't tell. When you're ill, it will make you well. So that sounds like something I'd want. A healing mushroom. A mushroom. I'm going to need that at some point if I don't die before I get to use it. Yes. Let's see. You realize talking to Dan would be a waste of time. Accept his gift gratefully, putting the mushroom in your backpack. Dan then sets off with his donkey towards Anvil, leaving you to continue east. Turn to 237. So I'm going to 237. Half an hour later, you come to a place where the path splits. If you wish to keep walking east towards Firetop Mountain, turn to 19. If you would rather turn south towards Darkwood Forest and Yaztromo's Tower, turn to 120. So, we are on my map here, when 19 is Firetop Mountain, 120 is towards Yaztromo's Tower. Now, at this point, I've always gone to Yaztromo, but I think this time I'm going to snake my way from 19 here. I'll just make this up here. And I'm going to do the direct path towards Firetop Mountain so I can see what's going on there, because I've barely been inside, even after 2 playthroughs. So I'm going to 19. I'm sure something exciting will happen on the way, and hopefully something that will help me as well. Among boulders set back from some 30 meters from the path, you see a drawing roughly daubed in white paint on a small rock. If you want to take a closer look at the drawing, turn to 171. If you'd rather press on towards Firetop Mountain, turn to 64. I'm going to have a look at the drawing, I think. So now it splits to 171, drawing, 64, press on. So 171, and have a look at the drawing. I'm not going to get cursed again, am I? It keeps happening to me every single time. You recognize the drawing as that of a gargoyle, perhaps representing the gargoyle constellation of the northern skies. Okay, this might be a clue. In any case, it does not make much sense to you. You walk around to the other side of the boulder and see the number 92, also painted in the same white paint. Finding nothing else of interest, you set off again towards Firetop Mountain. Okay, so now this might be a clue. Let's put clues. Gargoyle constellation and 92. Okay. So yes, now we're going, it's a little circle there. So 171 goes into 64. And a little sip of water. The day rolls by without incident until you make out the sound of somebody running towards you. You turn around to see a tall, ugly humanoid whose face is lumpy and beast-like. From its mouth, it is drooling spittle all over itself as it strives to catch up with you. Its clothing is primitive, no more than loincloth made of animal skins. It is an ogre, and it is armed with a spear and a heavy club. If you want to stand your ground and fight, turn to 395. If you prefer to try to outrun the ogre, turn to 126. You know what? I'm thinking an ogre is quite hard to beat. It's an armed ogre as well. You know what? I'll try to outrun it. So I'm going to go to 126. 126. Your legs are fresh, and you soon begin to pull away from the tired ogre. Why is he tired and running anyway? Realizing that he cannot catch you, he stops and hurls his spear at you. Roll 1 die. If you roll 1 to 4, turn to 157. If you roll 5 or 6, turn to 319. Okay, so I'm presuming a low roll is good in this case. 1 to 4, so I'm going to 157. The spear flies over your head, only just missing you. If you wish to stop and throw it back at the ogre, turn to 110. If you would rather keep on running, turn to 353. So now it's... so I think I missed something there. So let's just say 110, throw, 353, run. I think I want to throw it back and see what happens. Okay, 110. You snatch up the spear and steady yourself to throw it at the advancing ogre. Roll 2 dice. If the total is less than or equal to your skill score... Okay, but my skill score is 12, which means that will be less than or equal. I'll just roll it anyway, 5. Turn to 185. If the total is greater than your skill score, turn to 199. So I'm sure I've managed to do what I was supposed to do there and hit it. 185. The spear finds its mark, thumping into the chest of the advancing ogre, whose face betrays a bewildered look as a large beast sways back and forth, before toppling to the ground. When you have satisfied yourself that the ogre is dead, you begin a search of its body. A leather pouch on its belt contains a silver key and a lump of cheese. You decide to eat this cheese, regain 1 stamina. Okay, so up to 17. I keep the silver key. So, silver key. Excuse me. You wrench the spear free, thinking that it may prove useful later on. Okay, so I've got a spear as well. And set off once more for Firetop Mountain. Okay, turn to 86. So these are things I wouldn't have had if I'd gone the other way, and that is interesting to me, because that means this might still be a viable path, and not just a dead end. A few hours later, it is beginning to get dark, and with Firetop Mountain now plainly visible in the distance, you wonder whether to settle down and sleep out on the open plain or to press on. A group of large boulders 200 meters to your left offer some sort of protection, but you can see nowhere else to take shelter. If you wish to go over to the boulders, turn to 263. If you would rather walk on in darkness, turn to 357. Okay, so walking in the darkness means you might get ambushed. Going to sleep somewhere in the darkness means you might get ambushed. I'll go over to the boulders. I should make notes now, shouldn't I? So I'm sort of here somewhere, so I'm... So 263 boulders, 357 darkness. Okay. Boulders, it is 263. I'll go to the boulders. With your back pressed firmly against a large boulder, you think about the creatures of the night that stalk the plain. There is some wood close by, enough to build a fire. If you wish to make a fire, turn to 28. If you would rather go to sleep, turn to 359. Maybe I should have just walked on now. I don't want to make a fire because I'll just draw attention to myself. So I am going to sleep, 359. So 28 fire, or 359 sleep. I'm not feeling very safe there. I'm not feeling very safe anywhere in this book. Although you sleep uneasily and are awake just after dawn, the night passes without incident. You look eastwards at the imposing sight of Firetop Mountain in the shadow of the rising sun and estimate that you should reach it by midday. Turn to 221. Okay, so sleeping is okay. I'm not sure about the fire, but 221. Maybe the fire was a bad idea. Maybe they both were okay. It's hard to tell with these books. They're quite clever. As you draw closer to Firetop Mountain, you are amazed at the sight of the once red peak, now colored a deathly black. When you reach the foot of the mountain at last, you can see how menacing it looks. The steep face looks as if it has been savaged by the claws of some gargantuan beast. You soon find the dark cave entrance that you hope will take you to Zagor. Well, hope and dread. You peer into the gloom and see that the walls are dripping with water, which has formed into pools on the stone floor. At the back of the cave is a tunnel, lit by burning torches. The air here is cold and dank. Torches? Well, it's torches randomly all around, just like in fantasy movies. The air here is cold and dank, and you can hear the sound of tiny feet scurrying across the floor. Taking a last deep breath of fresh air, you step into the cave and walk on into a tunnel, almost at once coming to a junction. If you want to turn left, turn to 281. If you prefer to turn right, turn to 140. And now I think I am back at my Firetop mountain map. So it looks like 221 is the other way to get to the entrance. Last time I was flown here on an eagle, and I was started from 166, and then I got to the same junction. Last time I turned left. This time I'll turn right. Is that a good idea? Should I go the same path? So I know I'll turn right. Let's see. The tunnel soon ends at a wooden door, which looks as if it was boarded up many years ago. 10 years, maybe? You listen at the door but can hear nothing. You're just on the point of turning round and walking back to the junction when you catch sight of a bottle tucked away in the corner of the tunnel by the wooden door. On picking it up, you see that it is made of dark blue glass and is stoppered. There is a metallic object inside which rattles when you handle the bottle. You uncork the bottle. I'm not given a choice, seriously. But the metal object will not come out through the narrow neck. If you want to break the bottle, turn to 321. If you would rather go put it back on the floor, walk back past the junction and go on down the tunnel, turn to 281. I'm going to break the bottle. And possibly die a horrible death again. The noise of breaking glass echoes down the tunnel, and you grip your sword in case the noise attracts the attention of someone you do not want to meet. On the floor you find a small brass egg. You put it in your pocket, then walk back past the junction and march on down the tunnel, turn to 281. So that seems like an okay thing to do. So maybe I should have a color code for that as well. Things that one should do. So red for the things I do not want to do, and blue for the things I want to do. And I've got a brass egg. And I'm going to 281, which is where I've been before. You soon arrive at a stretch of the tunnel where it curves to the right, and you come across a short humanoid skeleton propped up in a recess in the wall. The skeleton is wearing leather armor, which is dusty and cracked. There are cobwebs over its face, and its jaw hangs open. It must have stood here undisturbed for years, 10 years maybe. You walk on round the corner and see 3 doors in a row along the left-hand wall. All 3 doors are heavily padlocked, and iron bars are bolted across them. They do not appear to have been opened for years. 10 years again, maybe. You soon come to a junction. So apparently these rooms, I can't remember the layout of the original Warlock of Firetop Mountain, but I presume these were rooms that had something in them in the original. Yes. You soon come to a junction. Looking left, you see that in a further 10 meters, the tunnel ends at a wall. You turn right and come to another junction. If you wish to turn left here, turn to 37. If you prefer to keep going straight, turn to 152. And I can't remember what happened. I didn't make a red mark. I'll just go straight ahead. The tunnel ends at a solid wooden door with metal hinges. It does not appear to be locked. You listen at the door and hear a noise like that of clinking bones. If you want to open the door, turn to 210. If you would rather retrace your steps back to the last junction and turn right, turn to 37. So I am now opening the door. I think this is where there were some skeletons. Yes, we have these skeletons in here. Well, not focusing so well, typical. The door opens into a large room which has plainly not been cleaned in years. There is rubbish all over the floor and everything is thick with dust. The smell in the room is unbelievably bad. A mixture of rotten eggs and an orc's armpit. I thought orc's armpits did smell like rotten eggs, but there you go. Maybe if you know these things well, you might distinguish between those two smells. The room may once have been a dining room, judging by the crockery, cutlery, pots and pans that are strewn all over the place. There is a large table in the middle of the room, around which 5 seated skeletons are squabbling over some rat bones they have found in a cauldron. Your presence has not yet been detected by them. 5 skeletons, okay. If you want to enter the room, turn to 296. If you would rather close the door, walk back to the last junction and turn right, turn to 37. I don't know, it sounds a bit risky. 5 skeletons. And then again, there might be something interesting in here. I'm going to enter the room. See what happens. But I did not do that last time. The skeletons suddenly break off their argument and turn to face the common foe, you. Standing in a line, they attack you one at a time. Oh, how nice of them. So, skill 66556, stamina's 54544. Okay, so let's just do one at a time now. So let's do 5 4 5 4 4 and 6 6 5 5 6. Okay, so my skill was 12, my stamina is 17, and with a skill of 6, the first one needs to I'll just roll the dice and see. So we've got a 4, so he can't hit me at all. So I'm first round me 11, which means that's a total of 17. And I need to roll 5 or better. I rolled an 8. So he's got 1 hit point left. And he rolls a 9, which adds up to 15. And I need to roll a 3. Oh, that's a draw for that round. He rolls 4 and he is dead. Next skeleton rolls 7, that's 13. He can't beat me. So he is injured. 4 again, he can't beat me. He is dead. Next skeleton has a skill of 5, but he's good at rolling. 15. I roll a 6, so he is injured down to 3. He rolls a 7, which is not enough to hit me, so he is down to 1. He rolls a 12, which is 17. I roll a 12. He is dead. Next one has a skill of 5 again. He rolls a 7, which equals 12. Not enough to hit me at all. I will beat him. He rolls an 8. Not enough to hit me. He is dead. Next one rolls a 4. Not enough to hit me. He is injured. And he rolls a 6. Not enough to win the round. And he is also dead. That wasn't too hard. Of course, if your skill isn't good, that is going to be a really hard battle. But with 12 skill, that's an easy one. He said overconfidently, and was suddenly killed by his hubris. Right. If you win, turn to 61. So I am going to 61. You are surrounded by a pile of broken bones, which you have to brush aside with your sword in order to make a path. I wonder where all the broken bones came from. You search the cupboards in the room, but find only crude bowls, plates, and spoons. But under the serving hatch, you discover a thin leather case, half a meter long. If you want to open this case, turn to 119. If you would rather leave it unopened, walk back down the tunnel and turn right at the last junction, turn to 37. Now, after all this hassle, I'm definitely going to open that. So 296 is a battle, and then I am 61, 119, 119. The case opens quite easily, but you find nothing inside. An inscription inside the lid of the case says, "The giver of sleep to those who never can." Disappointed at not having found anything useful, you walk back down the tunnel and turn right at the junction. Is this a reference to the original, maybe? I can't remember exactly what was going on here, but I presume that in the original story, you found something in this case that you took with you, and so it is empty. That was just a waste of time, so even though this is not dangerous, I'm going to say a little red mark here, do not go in there next time, because that's just a waste of time and you might get injured. Right, so I'm on 37. A few meters up the tunnel, you see 3 doors in the right-hand wall. You walk up to the first door and press your ear against it, but you can hear nothing. The handle turns in your hand. Will you open the door or walk on to the second door? Now, this is... I can't remember exactly what was in this room now. See, I've forgotten already because it's so recent, even though it's so recent that I played it. I'm going to open it and have a look, because I think I'll be allowed to run away quickly if it's necessary. Ah, yes, the room is quite small and its floor is covered in bones, debris, and dirt. In the far corner, you see a chain which is bolted to the wall. Will you rummage around in the dirt, pull on the chain, walk onto the second door? I want to rummage around in the dirt. Just 242. I seem to recall I found something interesting there. And after 5 minutes spent poking around in the dirt with your sword, you come up with 1 gold piece. Let's see, 1 gold piece. So I've got 3 of the Zagor gold and 1 normal gold piece. A tin whistle. And an onyx egg. So I've got 2 different eggs now, that's interesting. Maybe these have got something to do with elementals. And now this is something I don't know from this run, but of course from my previous run, I know that one of the ways to defeat Zagor, or perhaps the only way, is to get elementals. And one of the things you need to do to make an elementals is to find dragon's teeth, but maybe these eggs have got something to do with it as well. You pack away your findings and decide what to do next. If you have not done so already, you may tug on the chain, which is bolted to the wall. Otherwise, there is nothing for you to do but leave the room and walk to the second door. Now, this chain is probably part of the alarm system. I seem to recall something about a chain from 30-odd years ago when I played Warlock of Firetop Mountain. There was a room with a chain. If you yanked it, it was an alarm and some guards came running. I'm not going to tug on it. I'm going to leave that again. But I'm going to put that doing a search is a good thing in blue. And I am walking to the next door, 56. Oh, by the way, just an aside now. In my last 2 playthroughs, I was taken on a boat down the Red River. So quite a long paragraph here. I just realized that these names, they're spelled in a really weird way, but this is Laurie, Phil, Ian, Stewie, Crook, Mark, Neil, and Andrew. I suppose. So these are people he knows probably, that he's just writing their names in a completely weird way. So Andrew, yes. Andrew, Phil, Ian, Stewie, Crook, yeah, Mark, Neil. So I don't know who these people are, but I just read them the way they were written rather than. But I think it's sort of a kind of a word joke. Anyway, that's just an aside. Right. So I'm going to 56. And the next door. You listen intently at the door, but you can hear no sounds coming from the other side. You turn the handle and find that the door is unlocked. If you want to enter the room, turn to 226. If you would rather walk onto the third door, turn to 273. Now, remember, this room is quite nasty. If you go in there, there are some weapons animating and just hovering in the air around you, and you either have to fight them, maybe, or if you drop your own sword, they drop. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to go to the next one. So 273. The next door in the tunnel is made of solid iron. You press your ear against the cold metal but hear nothing. If you want to open the door, turn to 87. If you would rather walk further up the tunnel, turn to 23. Now, this was where I died last time, in this very room, because I failed a luck test. Now, my luck isn't very good this time. I'm not going to chance it. I'm going to walk further up the tunnel and into unknown territory for the first time, and actually for the second time in this game. And I'm going to see... Oh, where's my black pen? Oh, there it is. 23... I'm going to go to 23 and see what's next. Further deeper inside the mountain. You come to the end of the tunnel where it joins a cross tunnel. An iron portcullis blocks your way, and it is far too heavy to lift. Or maybe that's the opening for the chain. Maybe that opens the portcullis. On the wall to your right are two levers. Oh, that's where it is. On closer inspection, you see that the left-hand one is a dummy made out of old black wax. A trap laid many years ago. Ah, that's one of the active traps in Firetop Mountain, the first one. You decide to pull the other lever. Slowly and noisily, the portcullis rises into the ceiling, and you walk safely under it. Looking to the left, you see that the tunnel ends at the mass of rubble of a cave-in. So we've got 23. There's a portcullis. To the left, there's a cave-in. Let's do cave-in there. Oh, wrong pen again. Go away. There we are. Special pens out of the way. Looking right, the tunnel continues for 30 meters before bearing left. So right, so that's a dead end on the right, and then it turns a corner. If you want to go to the left to the end of the tunnel, oh, you can actually go to the rubble as well. Maybe I should have a look, or maybe it's going to cave in again. I'm going to go 383. I'm going to go check out the rubble. Maybe there's something in the rubble. 308. You walk to the end of the tunnel and have a poke around in the rubble. You find a small metal canister containing a large bronze tooth with the number 280. Okay, that sounds interesting. Bronze tooth. 280 stamped on it. You put the tooth in your pocket and walk back down the tunnel, turn to 3. Okay, brilliant. So I found something useful. Is that a dragon's tooth, maybe? So-called. Bronze dragon. So now I've got a bronze tooth and a brass egg and an onyx egg. I don't know if these things are compatible. So turn to 3. So one does want to do 308. Make a note of that. On turning the corner, you come across an old wooden bench above which there is a sign, but the painted words on the sign have all but flaked off. Oh, I remember this one. All you can make out is the first word, which is rest. If you want to sit down on the bench, turn to 211. If you'd rather walk on, turn to 162. And this, in the first one, this was a place if you rested here, you actually regained some stamina. And it does seem like it's sort of been in disuse since 10 years ago. So maybe the bench is still magical and allows you to rest and regain some of your strength. So I am going to, let's see, 162 for walking on, 211 for sitting. And I'm going to sit down. Yes, I'm going to sit down. After sitting down on the bench, you begin to feel relaxed. Your aches and pains are slowly soothed away by the healing properties of the enchanted bench. Regain 2 stamina points and 1 skill point. That is quite generous. If only I had higher luck as well. With renewed energy and determination, you set off down the tunnel. Turn to 162. Soon arrive at a junction in the tunnel. Okay. There is another cave-in the left-hand tunnel, some 30 meters further on. Okay. The roof of the tunnel to your right has also caved in, but there is a new branch in the left-hand wall just before the cave-in. A new branch, or maybe this is where it deviates from the original map, and maybe new tunnels have been made. Okay, you decide to make a quick right-left turn and make your way up the new branch. Okay. So that's a cave-in as well. I'm only going right and then left again. Cave-in. The new tunnel soon ends at a sturdy wooden door. You try the handle and it turns. You peer around the door and see a human skeleton lying on the floor of a dust-covered room. Okay, so there's we can put a door there in the room. There is a fine-looking sword in the skeleton's hand. If you need a sword, turn to 225. Oh, I see. So this is where you can get a sword after you lose it to these to the room down here that I didn't go into this time. Otherwise, you might either open an old box that is in the one corner of the room, or leave the room through the door in the far wall. Old box. That's a bit... Okay, so 93. Box, 225. Sword, 121, leave. You know, I'm curious, and even though curiosity did kill the cat and me a few times, I'm going to go open the box. It's going to be trapped, isn't it? The box is empty, apart from a ball of string. You put the string in your backpack and leave the room through the door in the far walls. Okay, so that may be a positive thing. Let's just blue that. At least we might need the string for something. So ball of string. Doesn't say what color it is. Would have been interesting, because there's another bit in the book where you the merchant that you meet in the town where you meet Yaztromo, he has he's sort of the king of string. It's got different colors and things. 121. The door opens into a short corridor, which ends a few meters ahead at another wooden door. Okay. So a little corridor, new wooden door. You listen but hear nothing. You try the handle and it turns, and you walk into a room which is richly decorated. The floor is of polished marble and the walls are painted white, although grown duller and faded over the years. There are 4 paler square patches, one on each wall, where you guess paintings used to hang. There is a door in the far wall which suddenly opens, and a tall, muscular creature with long arms enters the room. It stops in its tracks when it sees you and starts to drool. Its long, tusk-like teeth protrude menacingly from its bottom jaw. Armed with a spiked club, the savage cave troll runs forward to attack. And that is quite a powerful creature. So let's see. We are there, Cave Troll, and this is finally a battle that's going to be a little bit harder. Although I do have a good advantage. He is skill 9, stamina 9, and let's see how this goes. He rolls an 8. I need to roll a 5 or better. 4. I get injured. So I am down to 17 stamina. He rolls a 6, which means I need to roll a 3 or better. Yeah. So he is down to 7. He rolls 4, which means he can't actually 13. No, he can't hit me, so that means I hit him automatically. He rolls a 4 again. Well, I may not have a high luck score, but I'm quite lucky when I roll dice usually. Well, I shouldn't say that, should I? Might have dingsed it now. Oh, that one is a reroll. 7, so that's 16, and I hit him again. And the last one, maybe, he rolls a 5. I roll a 4. He is dead. Thank you very much. If you win, turn to 284. So this was in the old days when I used to just read these books rather than play them. I would have just seen this and I thought, yeah, I win. I'll go to 284. See what happens next. Nope. Not today. Not on my watch. I mean, it is fun actually to read the book as well, but this is a different kind of fun. If you start getting to a point where it gets boring doing the same things over again, I suppose you might say, how does it actually end? A pouch on the Cave Troll's belt holds 3 copper pieces. Okay, so gold. What I'll do, I'll just put down there 3 times copper. Some garlic, which actually, incidentally, is one of the things you were allowed to buy in the shop, and also which indicates to me, I'm quite sure there must be some vampires somewhere. But that means you can't actually get anywhere. And that means that, because in this battle you either die or you get garlic, which means that there's no point buying garlic in the shop, in the other one. So that's a superfluous item. That's nice to know for the future. Maybe I should make a note of that. Now, where is the shop now? Let's see, let's make a note in red. Do not buy garlic, and also, I suppose, string, if that was an option as well, because these are things that we now get without having to buy them, which means that if you go to the shop, there are other things that may be more important. Where was I? Yes, garlic. A crude metal earring in the shape of an earwig. Okay, so earring, earwig. And a piece of paper with the word leg written on it. So let's see, paper, leg. Perhaps the cave troll was on a mission to find Zager a leg for his new body. Maybe. You may take any or all of the copper pieces, the garlic and the piece of paper, and decide what to do with the earring. If you want to wear it, turn to 100, otherwise you walk up to the door ahead. I don't know, because, I mean, how is he controlling these creatures? Is that earring a part of his magic? Will it suddenly spring to life and go into your head and do something nasty to you? I'm sort of suspecting there's some... let's see, where are we now? So I've got the choice of 100 or 149. 100, that is earring. I'm not going to do that now, so I'm going to go to the door 149. I'm sick of all these curses and stuff, so... You open the door and walk along a narrow tunnel. It turns briefly to the right and then to the left. So, narrow tunnel, briefly to the right and then to the left. Where there is a small alcove. Walking on, you arrive at another wooden door with a carved bone handle. Hearing no sound coming from the other side of the door, you turn the handle. You enter a strange pear-shaped room with a rough stone floor. So things are starting to go pear-shaped now. Okay, so I've got another door and a pear-shaped room. And there is another door in the far wall, and on one side of the room there is a pile of rubble. Okay, so a pear-shaped room. Let's do a proper pear shape there. It has large ears and a long nose and is wearing only a loincloth. A dagger and a pouch lie by the troglodyte's head. If you want to tiptoe over to the next door, turn to 330. If you prefer to sneak up to the troglodyte and take its dagger and pouch, turn to 45. 330, sneak, that's probably a lock thing. 45, take. I'm going to try to take his dagger and pouch. If he's armed with a dagger, it shouldn't be too hard to beat. Oh, I'm doing it again. 45, I'm going to try to steal his stuff. As you creep over towards the sleeping troglodyte, you stumble and trip over the rough floor. Test your luck. If you're lucky, turn to 70. If you're unlucky, turn to 191. I need to roll 8 or better. No, I'm not lucky. I am not lucky. And my luck is running down as well to 7, just from testing it. And I turn to 191. The noise you make is enough to awaken the sharp-eared troglodyte. It leaps up, grabs its dagger, and pounces on you. It shouldn't be too hard to beat, though, because it's got a skill of 5. So there we are, and a stamina of 4. I'm just going to do this quickly. So he's got a stamina of 2 now, because he can't beat me with that. And he rolls an 8. Which is also not enough to injure me, and he is dead. And I'm going to 220 and take his stuff anyway. You empty out the troglodyte's pouch and find a piece of slate with the word arrow scratched on it. So we've got a piece of slate that says arrow. You put this in your pocket and slide the throwing dagger down the inside of your boot. Okay, so now I've got a throwing dagger at the ready. Satisfied that there is nothing else of interest in the room, you walk over to the far door, turn to 158. So 158 now. Right. The door leads into a tunnel which has been roughly cut into the mountain. It widens out until you find yourself in a large sand-covered cavern through which a river flows. I remember this river. So now I'm going to be here, and there is a river. On the near side bank of the river, a few stumps of wood sticking out of the water look like the remains of a bridge. To the left, an old cracked bell hangs from a post. A sign is nailed to the post, but it is too faded to read anything except the word ferry. The river is fast flowing and looks too deep and treacherous for you to try swimming across, so you decide to ring the bell, hoping to attract a ferryman. The bell gives out a dull clang, and a few moments later a withered old man in a small wooden boat approaches the riverbank. Excuse me. "Jump in," he says gruffly. 2 gold zagors to cross. Payment in advance. You assume that inside the mountain, Zagor must enforce the use of his gold coins. If you have 2 gold pieces with the letter Z stamped on them and wish to pay the ferryman, turn to 399. If you do not have the coins or do not wish to pay, turn to 260. So, So there's 399 pay. Of course, one has to pay the ferryman, and of course, this is a Greek mythology reference. When you go into the underworld, there is a ferryman that takes you across the river. Is it Styx or is it the other one? What's it called again? Oh, I've forgotten now. There's two rivers. There's Styx and there's another one. Anyway, one of the rivers is from the land of the living to the underworld, and you have to cross, and you have to pay the ferryman 2 gold coins. So what they do when you bury someone, or certainly this is sort of an elite thing for the cultural elite and the wealthy elite of ancient Greece, when somebody is buried, part of the proper burial rites is putting on 1 gold coin on each eye. And those are the gold coins that the dead person needs to pay the ferryman to go into the world of the dead. If he doesn't get buried properly with the proper rites and those 2 gold coins, he will forever be lost on the banks of the river, and his spirit will be restless and not at peace. So that's not a good thing. You're supposed to get across into the underworld and the afterlife. It's a natural order of things. And the ferryman, of course, is, if you just say the ferryman, often that's what you refer to. So his name is Charon, of course, which is, or Charon, I suppose, is an alternative pronunciation. And of course, that's one of the moons of Pluto, incidentally. Right. So Greek mythology is referenced everywhere in popular culture, whether people know it or not. But this is probably quite a deliberate one, since there's 2 gold pieces. So 399 pay and 260 not. So I'm going to pay him, although maybe that means I'll be some gold short at some point. But I'm thinking you do not mess with a ferryman. If this ferryman is as serious as the one in Greek mythology, it would be your death. Well, again. Right. So I'm paying 399. Ooh, 399. Right at the end. And, oh yeah, we had the orcs that attacked us earlier. When I was playing earlier, I was going on the Red River and I was slowing down and there was an ambush. Anyway, that's not in this one. You climb into the boat and the old man rows you slowly across the river. As soon as you get out of the boat on the other side, however, the old man raises his head and howls like an animal, and from out of the shadows step 4 lizard men, each armed with a loaded crossbow. Oh, maybe I should have killed him. Swiftly they take aim and fire as you dive into the murky water. Roll 1 die. If the number rolled is 1 to 4, turn to 310. If the number is 5 or 6, turn to 364. I think I want a low number now. Okay, watch this. 2. Okay. So I am going to... So I'm not sure now whether paying him is the best thing or not. So I'm going to put a red question mark there. So maybe next time I'll try not paying. Well, this may be the best result, possibly. Turn to 310. Okay, so that's, yes, 310. Okay. At least 1 crossbow bolt finds its mark and sinks. Oh, I was supposed to... Oh, I was supposed to roll high, was I? At least 1 crossbow bolt finds its mark and sinks into your neck. You are dead before you hit the water. Your adventure is over. Well. At least I got a bit further along. So now the question is, should I... I'm sort of getting to the point where I will want to... it's starting to get a bit boring trying to do everything all over again. So in this case, I'll go and check what happens if you roll a 5 or 6. 2364. The crossbow bolts fly over your head as you dive into the river. You swim downstream underwater until your lungs feel about to burst. When you finally surface, you find yourself in another large cavern. This one is filled with giant crystals, all sparkling and glinting in the light of torches. You swim over to the bank in your left and wade out of the river. You stand facing 2 tunnels. The word pits is chiseled into the stone above the left-hand tunnel, and the word puzzles is chiseled above the right-hand one. So I am downriver, which I think it's this way, and let's just say I'm going to go ashore over here. And there is pits and puzzles. Pits and puzzles. So pits, holes in the ground, you might need a rope. Puzzles, you need to solve some puzzles. Okay. Options. Examine the giant crystals, enter the left-hand tunnel, enter the right-hand. I'm going to examine the crystals first of all. Walking among the giant crystals, you come across a treasure chest, which is filled with gems. If you wish to take a handful of diamonds, turn to 342. If you wish to leave the treasure, you may enter either left-hand tunnel or the right-hand tunnel. Handful of diamonds. I don't know, it sounds a bit greedy and a bit... maybe something will happen. I'm going to go with puzzles. I'm going to turn to 38. So, let's see. So 342 is an unknown. Pits. Let's see, 124. 38. I'm going to go with puzzles. Let's see. You step warily into the torchlit tunnel. In the distance, you can see that the tunnel opens out into another cavern lined with bookshelves that are crammed with hundreds of books. Standing in the middle of the cavern is a black-robed person whose folded arms are concealed in baggy sleeves which almost touch the floor. A large black hood completely covers the figure's head. "Enter, stranger," a deep voice calls. "You have chosen the path of the puzzles. I am the Inquisitor. It is your task to prove to me that you are worthy to pass through my domain, and only by the power of your mind shall you do so. Fail and you shall die. Step forward and listen carefully. Your test begins." If you want to obey the Inquisitor, turn to 262. If you would rather attack him, turn to 141. I am going to obey him. So I am... oh, go away. Not the blue one. Let's see, 262, obey, or 141, attack. I'm not attacking him. So I'm going to go to 262 and start my trial of the mind. You tell the Inquisitor that you are ready. "Good," he replies. "There are 2 puzzles that you have to solve." He holds out his arms in front of him, and suddenly a sword appears in his right hand, and a dagger appears in his left hand. The sword and dagger that you see are together worth 300 copper pieces. The sword is worth 200 copper pieces more than the dagger. Okay, how much is the dagger worth? If you can work out the answer, turn to the paragraph without number. If you do not know the answer, turn to 127. Okay. So, that seems quite obvious, doesn't it? The sword is worth... together they're worth 300. The sword is worth 200, more than the dagger, so the dagger must be worth 100. No. That's the obvious answer. That's, of course, wrong. So the dagger is 50 and the sword is 250, which is 300. Yeah. Of course, if you don't think about it, you sort of think 100 and 200, but that's not right, is it? Right, so if you do not know the answer, turn to 127. So I'm going to paragraph 50. The sword and dagger disappear from the Inquisitor's hands. He folds his arms again slowly and says, "Correct. Now for the second puzzle. You must tell me my age from the information I shall give you. I first went to the school of..." I'll just make a note of these things now. Let's see. Right, so I first went to the school of evil magic when I was 4.5 years of age. 4.5. And I stayed there for a sixth of my life. So plus x divided by 6. Then I went to the school of demonic sorcery for a fifth of my life. Plus x divided by 5. I then studied under the great necromancer Hellmoon for a quarter of my life. Plus x divided by 4. And since then, for a third of my life, I have been in the service of Zagor. X divided by 3. If you can work out the Inquisitor's age, turn to the paragraph with that number. So, right, so just to do the common denominators here. So, if I do that, let's see, that is 18, 20, I'll just do 30 then. So, so I'll just make the common denominator 30. So 5x plus 6x plus... oh, hang on, 4 isn't 30, is it? That doesn't work. So what is a common denominator now? It's 24, 30... I'm not used to doing mathematics these days. My mind doesn't work as fast when it comes to those things because I'm out of practice. So 24, no, that doesn't work. So 30 doesn't work. What about 60? No. No. Yes, 60. 60 works. 60 does work. So 10x plus 12x plus 15x plus 20x divided by 60, and that goes 4.5 plus those. So we got 20, 35, 45, 57, 57x divided by 60. Which means that oh, well, that's not right, is it? Yes, that is right. So that means that 3/60 of his, so basically 4.5 years is 3/60 of his life, which is the same as 1/20th, which means if I do 4.5 times 20, I get 90 years, so 90 years. Yes. So I'm going to paragraph 90. So let's see, I'm going to make this easier for myself next time. Excuse me. Right, I am back after a phone call and some small things, and I also made myself some squash. Right, where was I? Yes, the Inquisitor's age, and I'm quite sure 90 is correct. So, let's go to 90. I'll just make a note of that. So I'm supposed to make a note of, let's see, so 50, 90, okay. So there we are. Correct, says the Inquisitor. You have earned the right to enter the inner sanctum of Firetop Mountain, where the harmony of the spheres align itself to chaos. If you wish, you may avail yourself of my library before you go. If you want to peruse some of his books, turn to 18. If you would rather walk through the cavern and into the tunnel at the far end, turn to 337. I'm sure there'll be some weird books here that might actually mess my life up. But I am going to 18, let's call it read, or 337, leave, let's call it that. I'll need to get a new sheet for my map now, but I'll just do this one here first. I'm going to go 18. You discover many strange titles on the bookshelves. Casket of Souls, Transmutation, The Dark Light, and Vampire Blood are just a few. But the one that catches your attention is a tiny leather-bound book entitled Eye of the Dragon, which is a book by Stephen King. Well, maybe not this one. You open it at random, but the print is too small to read. If you have a magnifying glass and wish to read the book, turn to 53. Okay, magnifying glass. That's one of the things you could have bought in the shop. So I'm going to say... and magnifying glass, for future reference, is something that is a good idea, maybe. Well, I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. If you have a magnifying glass and wish to read the book, turn to 53. If you would rather read Vampire Blood, turn to 290. I don't really have an option, so I'm going to 290. You scan through a couple of chapters and learn that lizard's blood is the main ingredient in many potions of evil magic. Disease, create zombie, blood eye, and drain life are just a few other potions that require vampires. Oh, was that a spelling mistake? Should that be vampire blood? So, okay, I learned that the vampire's blood is the main ingredient in many potions, it says. Anyway, you memorize the information and walk through the cavern and into the tunnel at the far end. Okay, I'll just make a note of that, because even though I haven't... Oh, where's my... Oh, there we are, clues. So, potions... disease... create zombie, and of course... an empty bottle was another thing that one could buy in the shop. I suppose if I'd had brought an empty bottle, maybe I'd be able to collect some vampire blood at some point, and maybe I would be able to create some of these potions, and maybe they would help me. So maybe I'll wait putting that on the shopping list until I find out. So I'm going to go to 337, my next stop on the way. 337. Let's see, the tunnel ends at the solid wall, which, however, slides to one side as you approach it. Fancy. You enter a large room and the wall slides back into place behind you. The room is lit by 4 candles standing at the 4 corners of a wooden table in the middle of the room. A polished breastplate lies on the table. If you wish to put the breastplate on, turn to 317. What's with all these armor things? Usually they're cursed, aren't they? Maybe one of them isn't. That would be nice. So we've got 317 breastplates. Or 170 door. Oh, doing the wrong color again. Let's see. Breastplate 317. I'm gonna try the breastplate. All right, I'm doing it. Taking one for the team again. Okay. You examine the breastplate carefully, ever mindful of traps and evil magic, because that, of course, keeps happening to me. But it looks perfectly normal, so you put it on. It is extremely well crafted and will help to protect you. Regain 1 skill point and 1 luck point. And of course I haven't lost any skill points, but I've lost 1 luck point. So my luck is now back to a meager 8. Seeing nothing else of interest, you open the door in the far wall, down to 170. So that is the correct thing to do. And then okay, so 170. I'm not doing a proper map now, I'm just filling in the space of my paper. The door opens into another tunnel, and after 20 meters you come to a door in the right-hand wall. You can hear great gusts of laughter coming from the other side of the door. You try the handle, but it will not turn. If you want to knock on the door, turn to 187. If you would rather walk on, turn to 304. Why would I knock on the door and alert these people to my presence? Let's see, 187. Knock. They might have something that's useful to me. I'm going to knock on the door. You only live once. A small hatch slides open in the middle of the door, and you see a pair of big eyes staring at you. What's the password? A voice demands. Will you answer? Zegor, Arrow, or Chaos? The obvious answer is Arrow, isn't it? Because that's what it said on something. What did I say? Say Arrow. It was a piece of slate that said Arrow. Chaos and Zegor, that's too obvious. So we've got Zegor, Arrow, Chaos. 83, 204, 300. I am going to go with Arrow, 204. The door opens and you are greeted by a small creature with large ears and a long nose. It's another troglodyte. He is flanked by 2 lizard men guards. He looks you up and down appraisingly and says, "No one told me any humans were entering the sheep's eye eating competition. Anyway, no matter, follow me. If you wish to tell the troglodyte that there has been some mistake and that you are not entered for the sheep's eye eating competition, turn to 156. If you prefer to follow the troglodyte in silence, turn to 43. So I've gone with this one, which seems to be the correct one, although of course that might make things worse, I don't know yet. So I'm going to, let's see, 156, no, and 43, yes, for the sheep's eye eating. I'm going to go with a 43 and let's see what happens now. You are conducted to a table set up in the middle of a large room, around which 3 contestants are sitting, each with a plate of sheep's eyeballs piled high in front of him. You sit down to join them and gulp at the sight of the eyeballs in front of you. Oh dear. Look at the others and try to raise a smile. Your opponent to the left is an old barbarian wearing furs and a leather headband. The one to your right is a Neanderthal-looking caveman, and the one sitting opposite you is another troglodyte who, although of small build, has a pot belly. And everybody knows that sheep's eyes are a troglodyte delicacy. The barbarian looks at you fiercely and asks in a gruff voice, "Do you want to side bet on this?" If you want to have a bet with a barbarian on the outcome of the competition, turn to 268. If you don't want to bet, turn to 380. So 268. 308 bet or 380 don't bet. I think I'll leave the bet for now. Maybe next time. If this doesn't go well, when this doesn't go well. Everybody bets on the eyeball game, the barbarian says menacingly. Maybe you ought not to be here. Guards, arrest this imposter. Oh dear. You push back your chair, get up and race out of the room, turning right into the tunnel. The lizard men chase after you, their spears raised. The leading one hurls his spear after you as you run away. Roll 1 die. If the number rolled is 1 to 3, turn to this, and 4 to 6, turn to that. So I am rolling a 3 and turning to 2, 3, 4. Okay. I was asking for a side bet, not a bet. The spear flies past your head and clatters to the floor. You run on without stopping until the lizard men are well out of sight. Turn to 304. So I don't know if that was a good thing or not, but there would have been something happening there that may have been. So I'm ending up back here, actually. 304. The tunnel seems to be never-ending, but finally you arrive at a T-junction. If you want to go to the left, so I'm going to just go like this. And turning left is 109, and turning right is 349. Turn right, turn left, turn left, turn left, 109. Let's say you walk along the tunnel, following it round a long right-hand bend until you come to a door in the left-hand wall. So I'm going like this, and there's a door. You can hear a noise like the flapping of small wings coming from inside. If you want to open the door, turn to 360. If you would rather walk on, turn to 172. I'm going to open the door. I like opening doors. They kill me sometimes, but I like opening them. You enter a dark room which has a smell of death about it. A solitary candle is burning on top of a skull, which stands on a small table against the far wall. There is a small box under the table, and next to the table is an open coffin. In the murky shadows in the far corner of the room you make out the vague outline of a dark caped figure. The cape suddenly flickers, displaying its scarlet lining. The figure slowly steps forward, and as its face comes into the candlelight, you see 2 long fangs protruding from its upper jaw. It is a vampire. If you have some garlic, turn to 181. If you do not have any garlic, you may either fight the vampire, turn to 254, or close the door behind you and walk further up the tunnel. So I do have garlic. Thank you very much. 181. I see the red-eyed vampire shrieks at the sight of the garlic and backs against the wall, hissing with fear and hatred. With the garlic held out in front of you, you step slowly into the room and pick up the small box. Then you walk backwards out of the room and slam the door behind you. Inside the box, you find a quill and an ink bottle full of blood. You decide to abandon your find and walk on up the tunnel. Why? Quill and an ink bottle full of blood. I would want to keep those. Oh well. I walk on up the tunnel. Turn to 172. Okay. That would come in useful though. Quill and ink bottle with blood. Eventually you come to a bend in the tunnel. As you turn the corner, you hear a loud click and the floor gives way beneath you. You fall through a trapdoor onto a bed of iron spikes some 10 meters below. Your adventure is... Is that it? This is just a dead end, literally. Spike, 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 spike. So, okay. Which means that do not turn left at 109. Right, I think that's I'm not gonna cheat death another time, because this case I just completely chose the wrong thing. The other time it was the roll of the dice, and that seemed a little bit unfair. I'm going to try again one of these days, but I keep going further and further into this place, and I'm learning some things. I know some things I can do. Still not sure what happens to the river there. Maybe there are other options. Maybe if you try to kill the boatman, he just kills you anyway, and maybe that is the best option, is what happened. But definitely not turning left over there again. And maybe the eating competition can turn out differently as well. So there is a lot of things going on that might be, and also there was an earring I didn't try on, which might be cursed, of course. Yeah, and a few other things I didn't do. But there you go. That's my third time's the charm, and third time dead. So hopefully next time I'll do better. So thanks for your patience in watching another episode of this, and I'll see you again later. Goodbye for now.